I'm Dr. Bart Rademacher, and this is Prescription for Your Transformation, real people, real conversations, and real success. And it's all about success, and it's all about real people. It's all about authenticity. Because in today's world, we can get very confused as to what is believable, what is trustworthy, and what isn't. And it's a real challenge. And for that reason, I've had this platform for the last 5 years, almost 6 years now, talking to people like Stephen Klein, and you hear in their authenticity in their voice. And you find out, do I resonate with this person? Do I resonate with what they're sharing? So that you now have some insights as to what it is that you can change in your life. And so this platform, Prescription for Your Transformation, it's all about tapping into that collective wisdom and creating that space of generative collaboration. So ultimately, it's about connecting. And it's connecting with the sources, the trusted sources that can help you on your own personal journey, but also help you reprogram that brain that unfortunately had some faulty programming, just like any computer has, potentially, infected by a virus, right? Some sort of, bad thinking that's happening inside of you, and being able to reprogram it so that you can have a life that really, suits you on all levels of happiness, performance, longevity, energy, whatever that is. So I'm really excited to be talking, this final part with Stephen Klein, the super connector. And I'm going to have him explain to you what's that all about, what his journey has been all about, and why what he does, you can do too, because it's relevant for your own success in your own life. Stephen.
Thanks, Dr. Bart. Appreciate you having me. And I was kind of smirking when you were talking about faulty programming, because I think I had a faulty program in myself. It's kind of what led to me connecting people and super connector and the whole thing. Because even though people think I have this really outgoing personality, I'm really kind of an, I guess, introverted extrovert, in that I'm not real comfortable talking to strangers. I'm afraid of rejection, that kind of thing. I mean, I'm working past that to a degree, but the super connector thing and connecting people came about because I realized early on that if I connected somebody that I knew with somebody else that I knew at a really high level, the chances of rejection for that are almost zero. And I received a ton of fulfillment when those people got together and did great things. Wasn't really a whole lot coming back my way, but it didn't matter and I didn't care. And that's really grown into a way of life for me, where when I meet somebody that I think is really interesting, I'll typically make a note about them. So it could be years that go by where something will flag that in my head. I might have to search for them, but I'll find it. I'll make an intro to somebody. They'll get together, do great things. And they're like, wow, how did you remember me from 4 years ago or whatever it was? Like, I don't know. I had you tagged or a note written or whatever. So I really, really enjoy and get a ton of fulfillment out of connecting people. It's not something that I look at as work or that I have to do or something that's going to expand my world, so I better get on it or whatever. It's something that I really, really get fulfillment from. And so I do little things that maybe other people don't, to try to always keep people top of mind, that if they got together, I know that I have this little spidey sense or whatever you want to call it, that if they met, they'd go out and change the world or shortcut their successes somehow. So that's kind of where it came from, and what I'm into and why I do it now is because I love it and I get fulfillment from it.
Well, just so you know, for the record, you're the only person in the entire planet that has this problem. Okay, that's if you want to call it shyness, and I'm not the same, and I think a lot of us have that, and we have our own process. But I love what you're doing, because the coolest experience that I get to experience when I'm in your neighborhood is not knowing that you're actually there. And I'm walking through this hall and suddenly I hear Dr. Bart, and it's like, whoa, I'm famous, right? And suddenly it's a really cool feeling. You're in a foreign environment or a strange environment, and your alert buttons are all going off, and you're worried about all sorts of things perhaps. And then suddenly there's this commonality that, oh, I'm being recognized. It's a really nice feeling. So on the receiving end, I want to let you know is that it's really cool thing that you're doing for others, because it allows them to feel good about themselves, about being recognized, because ultimately I think all of us want to be witnessed. But the more important thing that I want to share is this, is that we can't do things on our own. If we really want to be successful in our journeys of life, and all of us within us, we have this compelling future. And we don't always have the right connections. We don't always know where to look. And someone like yourself, who's got his web all over the place, all these different connections. I mean, it's a cool thing. And even if somebody doesn't even know you in particular, the fact that you have this podcast series coming out, that you have that website, people can come to you and say, hey, you know what, can you help me with this? And so ultimately you're doing things for others. So share more about this whole connecting business, and maybe share some stories. I love the story that you shared before, about connecting with Dave Asprey. Tell us more.
So a lot of it comes down to what we call is now termed Stephen Dippity, and I'll tell you the story that kind of where that came from. When I moved from Tampa, I was there 11 years. I was going to come to St. Pete, but didn't want to. I didn't want to move straight into a place because I didn't really know the lay of the land here, and so I moved into a place that I rented for 3 months with a friend, and then I was going to move into downtown. I go to the Bulletproof Buying Conference 2016. I come back. I go on Craigslist, and my very first phone call to rent a place. I call up and I'm like, hey, Jason, can I come look at your place you have for rent in the Madison condominiums? He's like, look, man, that place isn't going to be ready for at least 30 days. I should probably just take off the listing. And I'm like, well, can I come look at it just for context? Because I haven't been anywhere. He's like, look, man, I'm really busy. I just got back from this thing in California. I'm like, what were you doing in California? He's like, you wouldn't know anything about it. I was at the Bulletproof Biohacking Conference. I'm like, oh, so we were probably the only one from Tampa Bay at this thing in 2016. I meet him. I don't rent the apartment, but he's the guy that is now the CEO of the ARX Fit Trainer. But more importantly to me at the time is he had created this facility called the Biohack Studios that just opened in the middle of 2021, earlier this year opened, but I had access to it because of that phone call for 4.5 years. That's some Stephen Dippity, and we become friends, and he's an incredible center of influence in the whole biohacking community, now being the CEO of the ARX Fit Trainer. But the gentleman who I stayed with prior to that phone call, he called me a few years ago, said, Stephen, I've got credentials to shoot the Super Bowl in Houston. It's a big deal. My nephew has an internship with ESPN. He's going to be there. The Patriots are playing. That's my home team. I'm from Boston, but my place to stay fell through. So we're 2 weeks away from the Super Bowl. He's like, do you think you can help me? You have anybody I can stay with? I'm a starving artist. I can't afford Super Bowl rates. I'm like, let me call the one guy that I know lives in Houston. My friend Emilio Palafox, who worked for Pulse Centers. You're familiar with the PEMF company. So I call Emilio, and it's like, Steven, man, you caught me at a horrible time. I'm sleeping on the couch because I'm moving to Austin, Texas. I'm like, oh man, but wait a minute. I know this couple that I treated with neuroptimal neurofeedback, which is what he was doing at the time, along with being a bulletproof coach. So he calls me back. Long story short, there's this couple that lives in the Galleria district in a 10,000 square foot mansion. Barry Lively and his nephew get to stay there for free. They refer a couple people to Amelia with like brain concussion syndrome stuff in the NFL that Barry was hooked up with. So Barry comes back and coins the term Stephen Dippity after that trip. So some of the connecting stuff is really just being tapped in and open to, the 0 point field, call it, consciousness, some of the Joe Dispenza stuff, coherence. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but some of it's just the fact that I'm aware of stuff. I make notes and I'm looking to put people together anyway. But those are two.
And it's a cool thing, and it's really all about going with the flow, and accepting what's around you in that sense, and not being so judgmental. And I think what oftentimes happens, what prevents people from connecting with others, is that they're trying to protect themselves for whatever reason. They're very judgmental of whatever's happening, and oftentimes feel uncomfortable to ask for help. And in this world today, the beautiful thing is that we can ask for help. We don't have to be alone, but it is all about that connection. And what I love about what you're doing specifically is you're not looking for anything in return. I mean, it's just fun making these connections and making a difference for people, because ultimately, there's an interesting saying: now give everybody else first what they want, and then you'll get everything that you want. When it's just focused on yourself, then you're going to have a miserable life. But being able to connect with other people, making a difference for other people, that really touches people's hearts, because in this crazy world that we live in today, it's very seldom that we generally find people around us that are happy just to help and serve. And so what you're doing is an amazing thing. So if you were to tell people how to go about this, certainly with your own personal experiences and perhaps the challenges that you had, the uncertainties. I'm certainly one person that isn't, so outgoing with others and connecting with them. But interesting enough, perhaps maybe you inspired me. I don't know, but my way of relating to people has expanded to be much more conscious in recognizing them, like in text, right? So oftentimes when I would text somebody, it was just straight to the point. And I'm a surgeon, for God's sakes. I mean, I don't have time, right? But now I've shifted the way that I text people, and I first find, okay, how are you doing? What's going on with your life? How was this or that? And oh, by the way, you may want to think about this. So if you were to give some people some thoughts and ideas, suggestions or recommendations as to how they can begin to connect even better,
Yep.
what would that be?
So a main thing, and this goes along with the Tony Robbins stuff as well, is when you get engaged in a conversation with someone, whether you've talked to them recently or not, get them in a peak state, to have them talk about something fun that they've been doing, successes they've had, wins they've had, or whatever. Hey, instead of just, hey, what's going on? Because usually people go, tough day or whatever. Get them to talk about something great, and then they'll be more excited or more likely to talk about anything that's might be on your agenda as far as the phone call. I also, when I meet somebody, I realize that if that person's an accomplished person, then chances are they know some pretty amazing people. So I may ask, hey, who do you know that might be a good idea for me to know, without any kind of agenda or selling anything or whatever? Who do you know that I my job with or resonate with? We might be able to do some big things together or make some good connections. Ask them what connections are good for them. Take notes on this stuff. Send cards to people at random times, not just birthdays or a holiday. But document things on a contact, whether it's in your phone or a CRM, which is just like, your HubSpot or Salesforce or whatever it is. But take some notes, find out about people. There's a guy named Harvey McKay who wrote a book called How to Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive. And he's got a whole chapter on what he calls the McKay 66 or something like that. All these points, he would find out all this stuff about everybody he knew. So he knew them better than they knew themselves. And in a lot of cases, you can serve that person much better the more you know about them. So there's little things you can do. You don't have to go get a master's degree in somebody, but Dale Carnegie said, people, don't care what you think as much as how much they know you care, whatever that saying is.
Right.
So you genuinely have to be interested in people. You can't fake being interested in somebody. So if you're not interested in somebody, let it go and just don't even do this, right? Don't even try to connect. You've got to be somebody that's interested in other people and interested in their success, because part of the whole connecting thing is, my goal is, how do I help this person get from where they are now to where they want to go quicker through anything that I can bring to the table or add value for?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I would also add to that too, is that if you don't care, well, find something you can care about. And ultimately it's also about being relatable to them, and appreciating their world, and appreciating what's important for them. And it's a fun thing. The fun thing about witnessing other people is giving them the recognition of who they are, whatever the political bent is. And that's actually kind of unfortunate in our world today, is that everything's so political and so divisive, and people are pointing fingers and everything else. But the thing that I often will tell people is, if you're going to start pointing fingers at someone, actually look at yourself in the mirror and you'll find out it's pointing right back at you. And so, rather than finding what's wrong, find out what's right. And we're all humans. We're all messed up in one form or another. One thing that I got from, one of my old or past partners was simply this. She'd always be, playing the victim, and then her excuse was, well, I'm just human. And that would really piss me off, right? So I was being judgmental, right? But in fact, years later, I kind of recognized, well, we're all human. We all have our faults and weaknesses, and our vulnerabilities. And now I tell people, says, give yourself permission to be human, right? Give yourself permission to have your faults and your weaknesses. And guess what? Everybody else does. And more than likely, the ones that you have, other people have as well. How you began this section of the podcast, I've got the same problem, right? And I'm pretty shy, and I don't like to speak, but you know what? I figured out a way to really overcome it. But oftentimes I'll be in crowds and I won't talk to anybody, right? So you've mastered that art, which I think is beautiful. You're an example for the rest of us that, connecting is a beautiful thing, and focus on just making connections with other people. And the wonderful thing is that you create a, your own family of connections that one day can become very valuable for you because of what you've done for them.
Yep. Yeah. So I'll also add that just I ask questions. I don't take life too seriously. I don't care about what everybody thinks. I try to be entertaining or funny or whatever. I mean, life's a game. We're here to have fun, not be all, straight laced and serious about everything.
Right.
But be interested in people, ask questions, find out what they want. And, that's
Awesome.
what I do.
Well, how do people find you, Stephen?
So superkonnector.com is the website. That's superkonnector.com. Why the K? Because Stephen Klein initials. It was available, all that good stuff.
Oh, wait, hang on a second. I didn't make that connection. Great. That's awesome. I love it. Well, Stephen, you're a great guy. You've helped a lot of people in so many wonderful ways. And that should be an example for the rest of us. Let's focus on the rest of the world first, and then we get everything that we want, because it's just a good place to be. We're not focusing ourselves, but we're focusing on making the world a better place. And you consistently do that. Love the fact that, I'm and you're like one of the few people that actually does that. I'm walking somewhere and then suddenly hear my name. It's like, oh, okay, that's so awesome. So thank you again for that. Last word to you.
Oh, last word for you to say. Step outside your comfort zone and see how you can help other people. It'll serve you in a lot of ways because people want to get back to you as well. And it's fun. So play with it a little bit, take notes on people instead of just throwing their info on your phone. Make some interesting note about them that may come back later to give you a way to help them that you didn't think about.
Yeah. And don't just forget about that contact. Keep in touch with them, just like you said. Anyhow, I'm Dr. Bart Rademacher, and this is Prescription for Your Transformation, Real People, Real Conversations, and Real Success. And I'm hoping that you've enjoyed this 3-part series with Stephen Klein, the Super Konnector, talking about NES health, how energy can really change your life by addressing the root cause, on biohacking, the importance of that, and how you can start with it, and staying connected with others. So Stephen Klein, once again, thank you, and we'll be back.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Dr. Rademacher's Prescription for Your Transformation. Continue the path towards discovering your own authentic genius by tuning in next time for more real conversations with real people.